Blog Talk Radio.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, where we're asking the franchipreneur who owns one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, with my co-host, Don Johnson. And if you ever dream of owning your own business, then you've come to the right place. And as we were saying earlier, Don, we have a great show today. We have the pleasure of meeting Dan Lockwood, the president of Unishippers, and Chris Cadigan, the franchise owner of Unishippers of Oceanside, New York. And Unishippers help small businesses save time, trouble, money on all their shipping needs. Hi, Chris and Dan. How are you guys doing today? Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning, guys. Guys, joining us is my co-host, Don Johnson. And, Don, I know you wanted to say hi to Dan and Chris.
Happy New Year, guys. We appreciate you coming on. Marty and I are excited about hearing all about Unishippers. And I guess, Chris, you're in our neck of the woods, out on Long Island, New York, huh?
Yes, that's correct. Nassau County.
Did you get hit with snow, Chris?
Little dusting, maybe about an inch.
Okay. We got hit here in Pennsylvania. So, and Dan, where are you calling from this morning? We always like to get an idea of where what the weather is, where you're calling from.
Well, I'm calling in from our corporate office in Salt Lake City, and I live in Park City, so we
oh, nice.
Definitely getting snow today, but that's good news for us.
That is good news for you guys. That's great. Dan, I thought I would start with you and ask, what were you doing before joining Unishippers?
Well, I was with the McCormick and Schmick Seafood Restaurant group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
in their new business development and helping them expand out and open up new stores. Actually heard about Unishippers in one of the restaurants, eavesdropping on somebody else's conversation.
It's almost like it was fate, you know. It's like, that's interesting. And, Chris, what were you doing in your previous life before becoming a franchisee? These are always fascinating stories.
Well, actually, I was in industry, at least a similar industry, working for DHL, and then prior to that, Airborne Express. So I had about 14 years of experience prior to doing this in the same industry. So
right, that's fantastic.
So Dan, tell us a little bit about the history of Unishippers, when the company started and when you began franchising.
Sure. Yeah, the company was started in 1987 by 4 individuals, one of which was actually a sales rep for DHL, and who really thought of the idea of reselling the services of a small parcel express carrier to the small, medium-sized business market segment.
Right.
The concept hasn't changed much at all. I mean, the business has changed, but originally an agreement was put together with Purolator, and then shortly after that with Airborne Express. And the founders just saw that the distribution platform of franchising, the entrepreneurial spirit, was going to be the best way to drive growth for the company and achieve their goals. We were with Airborne Express for a long time until DHL acquired them in about 2002, I think. Worked with DHL closely. We'd had a relationship with DHL prior to that for the international part of the business. Brought in reselling freight, LTL, less than truckload, full truckload, air freight, sometime in the late 90s due to our customer needs for a consolidated solution for their shipping, I guess. Became really a true third-party logistics company, an extension of the sales force for our carrier partners. Grew the business, sold the majority of the franchises for national coverage, and here we are today as one of the largest 3PL resellers in the country.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
How do you describe the franchise system to a potential prospect, Dan?
Well, that's an interesting question, and a number of ways of describing it. I mean, structurally, we are a system of franchisees who have territories that they operate in, although there are avenues to sell throughout the country so that we can penetrate vendor relationships and supply chains. Our company is made up of about 285 separate, distinct franchises owned by about 125 owner groups. So most of the owners own multiple franchises. We're a company made up consultants, sales managers, customer service and admin folks, and franchise owners. I don't know the exact number, 700, 800, 900 people, covering the country nationally. We're a franchise or whose senior executives are all franchisees, which I think is unique. We take an extremely collaborative approach to the relationship we have with our franchisees, with our customers, and our carrier partners. We really look at, those are the three legs of the table that our business is based on, and it's very much a relationship-focused company strategy. We're a non-asset-based company. It comes down to the relationships we have with the components of the business.
And I guess a lot of those things are true. I saw you guys had a lot of accolades, too, over the years, too, Chris. I saw you were on Entrepreneur's Franchise Top 500 list. You guys were in the Franchise Times Top 200 list. I've seen on several occasions, I guess you've been in the Inc. 5000 list. So I guess all of those things that you mentioned are kind of like attributes of why you hit those milestones, I suspect.
Was that to Chris or to Dan?
Either. It doesn't matter. But I just thought that was interesting. It was good to see that you guys made those lists. I think it's a nice testimonial. Chris, why did you choose Unishippers? There's so many franchises out there. I think we're up to this is over 2,500 different systems. What was your reason for choosing Unishippers? I know you had a lot of different choices.
Yeah, it's a great question. I've been in this industry for 14 years, and as things began to wrap up for me at my last company, this opportunity had come up. I met Dan about 2 years ago and his senior staff, and it just, to me, was a natural extension from what I was doing prior, which I loved, and now the beauty of it is I wake up every day and I do what I love from start to finish. And I'm not afraid of a lot of work. And here I get I work my tail off, but the beauty is it's all for me. It's every day. So it made a lot of sense. And Unishippers just again, it was just a natural choice.
Did you always want to go into your own business, Chris? Did you know, if I asked you this question like 10, 15 years ago, that you would be doing this? Could you have forecasted that, you would have owned your own business one day?
I always said I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to go into business for myself. This goes back to when I was probably in high school or college.
Right.
But coming up from a meager childhood growing up. My parents were blue collar people. I never dreamed that I'd be able to kind of put something like this together. And it just everything fell into place again. Starting 2 years ago, and here I am living my dreams. So it was a great experience.
I guess franchising made sense to you too, Chris. I guess you were also sold on the franchise concept, as opposed to going out on your own and just starting one of these on your own, which I suspect would be extremely difficult for anybody, even with experience. Would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. The nice thing about Unishippers is, it's a proven concept. They've grown from $0 to the organization is today, and the concept works no matter who you talk to. You just got to work at it every day in order to contribute yourself. So yeah, there was that safety net there again about a system that was established and in place.
That's interesting. What about the other franchisees, Dan? Chris's background, yes, he had a similar background. He was in this industry. But your other franchisees, what were they doing in their previous lives?
Well, it's a pretty diverse group out there, and it ranges, across the board. We look for franchisees that have a strong sales background. They're entrepreneurial. They're not afraid of high activity. We've got franchisees that have been that are still in the system that were the first ones in. I would say, what we look for has changed a bit over the years. All kinds of, real diverse backgrounds. Today we're just looking for, highly motivated, highly energetic salespeople that are, results-driven, not afraid of accountability, understand the need to do what we do for our carrier partners for the sustainability of the business. Chris is a perfect example. I mean, he came from transportation. He knew all the players. I mean, he made his choice based on how we run our business, but understood if he put in the hard work, and he could grow his business to achieve his goals.
That's interesting. And how has technology played a role with Unishippers? Dan, I'll start with you on that one.
Well, much like it has with the world in the last 20 years, I don't know a business that doesn't rely on technology. I mean, the customer in transportation today to advance information, transparency across the supply chain, it's just as critical to our business as it is to the industry as a whole. Yeah. It provides the efficiencies, the cost savings, that are necessary, and we align our technology with our brand. We've developed several proprietary systems, 2 separate transportation management systems. We have management and billing systems that are for our internal operations. We think our technology products are best in class in the market, and often the reason franchise prospects choose us. It's an integral part of the business. We joke around and say, well, we just don't want to become a technology company, but there's no avoiding it. It's sale and transportation is as much about what you can provide through the technology as it is the transportation.
True. Yeah, interesting.
And how big is the industry? Dan, I mean, it's a huge industry. You have any specific numbers?
It just depends on who you ask. After last year with some contraction, obviously, that tracks with the economy, I don't have exact numbers. I mean, in the express market, as I said, we've moved from airborne and then to DHL, and DHL left the country domestically here, so that leaves UPS and FedEx, and we're one of 2 resellers that represent UPS. So our target market is Federal Express. So the express market is kind of the size of what FedEx is out there. Their share of the $65-70 billion express side of it. On the freight side, cutting it LTL, full truckload air freight, it's just a monster number. $200 million on the LTL side, $700 billion for all transportation domestically. It's just a monster number. So, we look at, in the core business, maybe, $35-40 billion on express and another, close to $200 billion on the LTL side, which is where our core sales are. I mean, you barely scratch the surface.
Do franchisees make more money domestically or, shipping internationally?
Oh, both. Definitely both. We deal with an express carrier that has an aggressive growth plan to grow globally. In the full truckload and less than truckload, most of our target business is domestically here, although we work with international air freight carriers as well as ocean freight carriers for import and export. So the opportunity is for both.
And Chris, are you a Met or Yankee fan?
Sad to say I'm a Met fan, but frustrated one.
Now, what's been something surprising or interesting, since you've joined the Unishippers team, Chris? Anything jump out? Anything that was a little different than what you thought it would be once you joined?
I'll tell you, I was thinking, I figured this question might come up. I mean, there's just been so many things that have happened over the last, 4 or 5 months since I've been doing this. But, probably the most interesting thing that really kind of happens, almost daily, I'd like to say it happens almost daily, is just when a customer, acknowledges that they're getting exactly what they thought they'd get. And, it's sad to say in my last 14 years, while I thought I was very successful, which I was, but never really got that recognition from a customer that we were able to make a difference. Maybe save them some money, but here we're actually able to make a difference. In their productivity, in their operations. We're able to help them with the bottom line, but also too able to maybe improve some efficiencies on the front and back end. So So that to me is probably the most interesting thing to experience. It's just the satisfaction, hearing what your customers are saying about, what they bought from you. That's probably the one thing that stands out most.
Yeah, it's always nice to hear your hard work's paying off. And, this question for either of you guys, I'm just wondering if, say you go, a franchisee goes to a local business who might already be using the UPS store, and I guess you're going to them and be able to save them money, so a small business owner will like that. But how does UPS benefit from that? They'll pick up more clients because maybe saving a price, you'll get the FedEx and other carrier business as well. So UPS doesn't mind making less for that new customer you're getting who was already a customer.
Well, that's a great question, and I'll answer that by our target customer hasn't changed in 20 years. It's the small, medium-sized business that ships business-to-business shipping, and our target customer is a daily shipper. So our customer really does not overlap with a UPS store. But to the question, our goal is not to dilute any revenue. It's to find business that UPS does not already have. And in going into the relationship with UPS, we had a lot of discussions to make sure we weren't going to overlap with the UPS stores and to make sure we had good communicational processes to deal with it if it did.
Right. Okay, good.
Guys, able to stick around for another segment?
You bet.
Yeah. That's fantastic. We'll be right back with more. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, where we're asking the franchipreneur who owns one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, with my co-host, Don Johnson. And if you've ever dreamed of owning your own business, then you've come to the right place. We have a great show today. We have the pleasure of meeting with Dan Lockwood, who is the president of Unishippers, and Chris Cadigan, who is a franchise owner of Unishippers of Oceanside, New York. And Unishippers helps small businesses save time, trouble, and money on all their shipping needs. And Don, I think I'm up. Dan, I wanted to get back to training for a bit, and I guess we'll talk to Chris about that as well as what his experiences were like. But how would you describe the training for new franchisees?
Sure. Training is, obviously critical in any franchise system. You have proven processes and demonstrated best practices. Our training is comprehensive. We call it our new owner quick start program. It's an intensive 9-month training and support program. It gives our franchisees the best opportunity to get off to a fast start. It includes online training, in-house sales training, an internship, corporate field visits, access to a new owner specialist who conducts weekly calls with our new owners and issues, concerns. So it's ongoing, I would say. Training never ends, but we try to provide, a good foundation to get them off and successful in a hurry.
That's good. And Chris, what was your experience like with the training?
Well, I would probably have to say it was one of the best training sessions that I've been a part of. And, I've gone to a lot of corporate trainings in the past, and as far as the time spent, and it really helped me when I got back into my market, really get off the ground as quickly as possible. So yeah, definitely a big benefit.
That's great.
And what's a typical day for you, Chris? Maybe for people listening, considering investing in Unishippers, maybe tell them a little bit about what your day-to-day goals are and what you have going on.
Well, it's really no typical day. Every day is what you make it, and is different in its own right. But my day typically starts out pretty early. I normally get up and running about 8 o'clock. Typically on the phones in the morning, and then I'll call seeing customers through the day. Never typically in one spot, which is nice and I like. And in the afternoon is typically a lot of coordinating with customers as far as shipments and business. I've got a great back office that's down in Florida that does a lot of that support for me. So those guys are fantastic. And then my evening is really just kind of following up on things I need to get done, pricing proposals or what have you, and then also kind of gearing up for my day the next day. So it's typically long days, but it's never a dull moment. It's exciting. So.
And that's what you need to get you through.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's really no difference from any business owner who's getting started, especially me. I mean, I started from scratch, so you have to invest the time in order to get the business up and running.
Right.
And but other than that, it's great. I mean, you have to love it. You have to love it, but it's every day I love doing what I'm doing. So.
And Dan, what advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur looking to buy a franchise? Whether it's Unishippers or another franchise, what advice would you give that person?
Well, I think it's important that they understand, what they want, what's important to them. First, understand what their goals are. What are they looking for from the business they're getting into, whether it be lifestyle, earning potential, the activity. Every franchise is not for everyone. I think an entrepreneur is critical in a franchise model, but to really do some soul searching to figure out, what it is that is going to motivate them and make them passionate about the business and achieve their goals. I mean, first figure that out, and then go out and find a good match. I think I heard you guys earlier, talking about the number of franchise concepts that are out there. It's limitless. Literally every kind of business you can imagine. There's probably some franchise model that you can get into, and you can match it up, and that will really ensure success for the individual. With us, we spend a lot of time in making sure that anybody interested in Unishippers is actually going to be a good match for the job. Like Chris said, it's a lot of activity, it's sales, but Chris is new and he's putting in a lot of time to invest in bringing on that customer base that is residual, knowing that it only gets better because those customers stick with you.
It's true. Yeah. And Chris, how would you answer that question? What advice would you give? I mean, the majority of our listeners are aspiring entrepreneurs thinking about buying a franchise. What would you say to them? What advice would you give them?
Well, yeah, I mean, to echo what Dan said, you gotta match up, what you love, with what you want to do. I mean, but also to not make it a hobby with what you guys said earlier.
Right.
Clearly, I love coffee, but I'm not going to go into wellness. That's just me.
Yeah.
But as long as if you love the concept and you love what you're going to be doing every day, and clearly you're going to be investing the time, so you have to enjoy it. Just at that point, if you can find that match, then just follow your dream and just go with it. Also understand you have to have the fortitude, so to speak, to kind of go with it, because I mean, you're on your own essentially to build the business after you're in.
Right.
But I mean, if you've got that dream and that desire, as an entrepreneur, then go for it.
Yeah, well said.
And that's great you went for it, Chris. A lot of people nervous to take that step. Fear is the unknown, and some people don't have confidence in starting a business. I guess that's one of the strengths of franchising. You get that support, ongoing support, training, and everything.
Yeah, it's a good point, Don. And did you have that fear, Chris? I mean, there had to be some, fear involved in the whole thing.
We could talk about the anxiety that I went through, right after. That's probably for another show. Right. But yeah, everybody goes through it. It's you wouldn't be human if you didn't, because you're completely on your own, so to speak. To kind of build your business. So yeah, I went through that, but then once you're in, that fear kind of goes away,
right.
And you just get up and do it. And
it's a normal part of your life, I guess.
Yeah, exactly right.
Interesting.
And when things are going well, there's excitement that'll keep you motivated. You're helping people, like you mentioned, you're hearing customers saying this is exactly what I thought it would be, and I'm saving money, and it's a win-win. I guess that's a good feeling. You're helping people, helping small businesses, and during these tough times, every small business has to have an edge, has to be looking at their overhead more than ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's a great feeling. Yep.
Yeah. Again, what are Unishippers' plans for the future? I mean, again, how big would you guys like to get and grow over the next several years?
Well, despite last year's economy, we still have a goal of becoming $1 billion company. 2009 was actually a very good year for us in terms of opening up new franchise locations, despite what was going on in the economy. And I think the economy actually helped us out there with individuals that were deciding to make changes in their lives, maybe coming from the corporate world or whatever. We've got a model that is I would call recession-proof. I mean, we bring value and solutions to customers, whether the economy is up or down, and
right.
The savings component is more or less important depending on the kind of economy and markets we're in. This year and beyond, we're looking to add additional locations, grow market share. I'm not banking on the economy helping us out with organic growth and shipping volumes from our customers, but there's absolutely no reason our company will not continue to grow.
Yeah. What kind of location do your franchisees look for? And Chris, did you have trouble finding a location for your franchise?
Location meaning is a geography to open up?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my last role, I did a lot of traveling. I did not want to, I spent a lot of time away from home.
Right.
Now, when I was looking at this, I wanted to, kind of plant myself, so to speak, in and around where I live. So, I mean, I had the opportunity to really, build my business right in my backyard and where I live. So, no, I mean, there wasn't, at least from my experience, there wasn't a problem finding a place to open up.
And how much space, Dan, do your franchisees need for the ideal location?
Well, let me clarify something that is often confused with our model. We are not a retail.
Right.
We're not a UPS store or something like that. So it's a business environment with customer service and admin, and it all just depends on what the franchisee's plan is and how large the territory is. Many of our franchisees, in smaller markets, outsource the customer service and admin to some of the larger groups. So it doesn't take a lot of space, really. I mean, people that are with computers and on the phones, and they have the option of outsourcing to a number of other groups if they so choose, which we see more and more of in the consolidation of that.
I think that's a big selling point.
I think so too.
The low investment size, not having to have that retail space.
Right.
It's especially during these times when maybe more of the low investment size franchises are selling. I'm sure you're getting a lot of inquiries with this needed service. I do agree it's recession resistant. And being a low investment size and now having a few hundred franchisees, I can see where you're getting a lot of interest, guys.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this very low capital relative to, other franchises. Actually, a franchisee can come in and not have to have any space at all. They can outsource the customer service and admin to one of our larger groups that do an excellent job and focus entirely on the sales side of the business, grow the business, and at some point decide to take over that customer service and admin if they so choose, but literally can get in and have that cost be variable as in proportion to the size of the business they're growing and purely focus on the sales side of it, which is proving up to be a really good solution.
That's great. So we have about 30 seconds. What's the best way for our listeners to get more information on becoming a Unishippers franchisee?
I would call and ask for Chip Baranowski at our corporate office at 800-999-8721, and we'll start with the process of seeing if we're a good fit.
Fantastic. I want to thank both of you gentlemen again. You guys have been fantastic guests, and we'd love to have you back at the end of the year.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Have a great day.
You as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Great concept, Tom.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Any good service that could save a business some money on services they definitely need.
Absolutely.
That's always a good thing. So, yeah, I'm not surprised they're doing well. And when a lot of businesses were suffering in 2009, they were seeming like they're doing better.
Exactly. That's interesting. So great job in segment 1 today, Don. And for our listeners, go to franchiseinterviews.com, franchisefunding.net, gofranchise.com, and I'll be talking to you next week, Don, for another great show.
Excellent, Marty. Have a good day.
Have a great week, Don.
Bye-bye.